By now, you already have your Mac or your Windows ready to start developing Android and iOS applications using Xamarin. And we're going to start by creating a new Xamarin project in the next lecture. But before moving forward into that, I want to touch a little bit more about the differences between shared project and PCLs. These are the two ways that you'll be able to share code between projects. In the next lecture, when we create our first Xamarin project, you will notice that you have both options when you create the Xamarin project from a template. So I wanted to talk about the differences, the benefits, and the disadvantages of each of these options. Let's start by just stating that both of these will allow you to share code between platforms, between Android, iOS, and even Windows if you were to support it. During the rest of the course, you will actually get to use both of these so you can compare them by yourself and choose whatever suits you the best. But let's start with the basics. Side by side, the differences between the shared project and the PCL, which stands for Portable Class Library, is that the shared project will include all of the resources inside it into each project, while the Portable Class Library will generate an assembly, a portable assembly, which will be a DLL file that is later referenced into each of the projects. So this is the main difference. In the case of the shared project, all of the resources will eventually make it as is into each of the projects. While in the PCL, all of the resources will be compiled into a portable assembly, and that portable assembly, that DLL file, is the one that is going to be shared into each project. So having mentioned that, this is going to result on some benefits and some disadvantages for the platforms. The benefits of the shared project is that you can actually have branched code. This means that inside of the very shared project, you can have some code that is specific for Android and some code that is specific for iOS. For the same reason, you can have platform-specific references to be added. In the case of the PCL, the benefits is that you have refactoring that always updates all of the references. And the PCL is always a better solution when you plan to share the result assembly, the DLL file, with other developers. When it comes to disadvantages, the shared project, because it has no output like the PCL does, it is not ideal for sharing with other developers because you would have to share the entire project. There is no one DLL file or no one file that you can share for other developers to implement. And the refactoring will not always update all of the resources. And this is because, like we said, there is some platform-specific code that can be added. So for example, if when you are refactoring the active code is the iOS code, then the Android code won't be updated. And the same way, if you are refactoring when the active code is the Android code, then the iOS code won't be updated. And the disadvantages of the PCL is that you cannot have platform-specific code, platform-specific references, like you do on the shared project. And only a subset of the .NET framework is going to be available. This is because when you create the PCL, you actually have to select what projects it's going to support. So for example, when you select that you have to support Xamarin iOS, some other .NET framework capabilities may not be available for Xamarin iOS, so the entire PCL won't support those features. Having talked about this, it is of course going to be more obvious once we start developing our applications. It will be more obvious for you to identify the differences between one and the other. But mainly, both of them will allow you to share code between platforms, and both of them will allow you for very high optimization of code reuse. In the next lecture, we will start by creating a Xamarin project that uses a shared project to share code between platforms, because currently the Xamarin Live Player only supports the shared project. But really, I do always recommend to use the PCL because sharing the output of that PCL is just so important for teams and for later sharing something that has already been implemented before, something that the shared project won't easily allow to do.